parents should have a say in which apps are right for their teens. That's why Instagram wants to work with Congress to require parental approval wherever teens under 16 download apps. Learn more at instagram.com/parental approval.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
At Staples Business Advantage, we help you select from 2,000 breakroom products, so you can be sure there's something for everyone.
Yum. Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
To get the Crime Writers on After Show right now, go to patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a mysterious countess left her fortune to her German shepherd, and then came the sex cult. We'll talk about the Netflix series Gunther's Millions. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and favorite cult leader, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin. What is that?
That's my Gunther impression.
All of our listeners with dogs hate you right now. They hate you. You can't knock. You can't ring a doorbell. You can't do dog barking.
Meow.
Oh,
nope,
God.
Can't. All
nope.
Right.
Also with us.
I want to be dog of the week.
Is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of the hit Strange Arrivals podcast, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hey, Toby.
Buongiorno.
Are you Chef Boyardee all of a sudden?
No, man, we're talking about Italy.
That's true. All right, so Kevin, this is Thursday's program.
Yep.
What's happening on Monday's Crime Writers On?
Next week, we're going to be talking about the podcast Truth and Lies.
Oh, is it like a game? Is it like we're going to each tell two truths and a lie?
No, I don't think that's what that is.
Okay.
It's from ABC.
So can we just say something right now?
Sure.
Welcome to being north of the wall. Right now, as we tape this, our house is surrounded by 18 feet of snow. It's pretty exciting, guys. Is it not?
Well, I mean, define exciting. Toby was without power for more than a day.
Oh, I'm sorry, Toby.
We almost didn't get to record.
Yep.
But I have a new song I've been singing this week.
What's
to
that?
The Green Acres theme song.
What's that?
You know the Green Acres theme song that's like, farm living is the life for me.
Yeah.
So my new song is condo living is the life for me. As I look out and I see the little dudes shoveling and plowing and I don't have to do anything for the first time in 20 years. I'm pretty darn happy about that.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm happy too, because in the last couple of months, I got a small bonus from one of my gigs, and then my mom gave us some Christmas money. And Kevin and I, we don't usually agree on what to spend little windfalls on, but there's one thing that we actually kind of agreed that we would be willing to buy.
Instead of taking the money, throwing it on the pile, and paying some bills.
No.
Said, let's get something that we wouldn't buy ourselves.
We bought the most obscene, enormous television. It is 77 inches.
Oh my God.
It is so big. And so 77 inches is a diagonal. But it is longer than Kevin is tall. It is so.
Is that right?
Yes, it's 68
I didn't
inches
really lay down. Okay.
on the horizontal. And you're.
Oh my God.
You're
Can I come over and see it?
It is so big. Yeah. And I have to tell you, when you can't go anywhere, turning this thing on and having all the people be 4 times as big as you are, it's very exciting. I love it. Kevin, thank you.
Yeah, and it makes regular TV look like shit. You're just oh man, look at all the static and pixels.
Yes,
shit.
But
get your shit together, CBS.
You know what else I got, Laura?
What?
I got my own VPN account, so I can get that Happy Valley now.
Oh, I'm coming to your house. Oh,
I'll just give you my login. And you can do it on your own computer. That's how I started using it because my son gave me his login. It's actually really
Oh,
good.
Gonna have to get that BBC player.
Yeah. I was always very confounded by this whole VPN thing. It's an app. You just get the app and then you tell your
that's
iPad. Yeah. You get the VPN app. Listen,
Oh my
listeners
God.
have been telling, okay, listeners who don't know how to do this, I'm old. There are apps for VPN. You get it, and it changes the location of wherever your device is, your iPad, your computer. You just tell it you're in England, and then you can literally watch whatever's on in England. It's incredible.
Oh.
Yeah. Because one thing you have to do in order to get the BBC app to work is that you have to give them
Your postal
code in England. So Rebecca asked me to give her one. I gave her the one to 10 Downing Street.
Yes. Give me the I was like, give me a random postal code in England. And he just gave me one. And I put it in.
And it worked.
Yeah.
I could do Exeter, England. I can't wait. This is my plan for the snow day.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome,
I'm
Rebecca.
really happy with our obscenely
Yeah, I
TV.
bet.
It's gross. You can put that in the newsletter.
Yeah, no, it's super.
It's really something. Okay. So I think we should talk about, speaking of obscene things on TV, I think we should talk about the thing we're going to be talking about and drop that first clip right now. What do you think, Kevin?
Do it.
Leading off.
It's been a crazy ride. There's all of this money and this fortune with a dog fronting it. So this is the story of how it started.
When a German countess died in 1992, she left her fortune to the only family she had. Her dog, Gunther, the world's richest pooch, enjoyed private jets, personal chefs, and a dedicated staff led by Gunther's caretaker, Maurizio Mian.
Maurizio came to me and said, "Hey, Lee, form a group that's going to sing and dance on behalf of the richest dog in the world." It was actually listed in the will. The countess had laid out a plan.
The will also decreed that Gunther would form a pop band. The dog bought Madonna's mansion, where the group's attractive members were directed to have sex with one another, while researchers studied their levels of happiness. But few questions were asked about the origins of the fortune or how Maurizio came to control Gunther's financial empire.
Was it an imagination to resolve an emotional issue of somebody who he lost as a friend? Or was it just a tool to funnel money so that you don't have to pay taxes on it?
The Netflix documentary series Gunther's Millions turns the feel-good story of a rich dog into an investigation of media manipulation, tax fraud, sex cults, and the man at the center of it all. Is this the story about one lucky dog, or is it the ultimate test to see if money can buy happiness? Spoiler alert. We are going to be talking about significant plot points from Gunther's Millions. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes to hear our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. One additional note, I am the host of the Netflix podcast, You Can't Make This Up, and I have interviewed the directors of this documentary. However, I promise that has not influenced my review. So Kevin, This is a show that is not about what it proclaims to be about, correct?
Well, it's not where you think it's going. Especially, the story. It's like, oh, this feel-good thing, the dog, has millions of dollars and things like that, and it's going to be fun. And it's like, hey, let's watch what the private chef makes for the dog. Even if you think it's like a crazy, stupid thing, I can't believe, people spending their money like that. And you certainly think, like, the more you're watching about it, this is going to be about Maurizio and how he's taking advantage of the situation, because it's kind of a thing that, would be obvious. That's where it's going, and just find out about all these other things. But it's way more complicated than that. And in the end, I think it's way more moving when you sort of figure out the motive for the whole thing.
The motive or just the reason?
Well, the reason for the whole thing. What got it going?
This is the whole thing. We call this a scam, but
do we?
It's a tax.
It's not really a scam.
It's a tax fraud. It's a rich person who wants to live forever and like evade taxes, which is what all rich people want, right?
Yeah, and I loved the graphic when that finally was revealed, where it was like, actually, and again, it was in stages. It was not the countess's money. It was my mother's money, and then it had this tick, 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 this little thing going along. But then you find actually there wasn't even a countess, and it was just like the whole thing was just so convoluted.
See, I don't even think it was about taxes, though. It was
It was about not paying taxes on their money.
It was about not paying taxes.
No. I see it as all about moving the money and not really laundering the money, but laundering the idea and giving cover to Maurizio's plan to spend the money as he wishes.
Listen, but he wouldn't put it in the Bahamas.
This crazy thing.
He wouldn't put it in the Bahamas if he was willing to pay taxes.
Well, I think it's just a bonus.
You should have gone to Grand Cayman. I like that better.
Yes. So, Laura, you sent a note. I just want to answer it real quick. Why did it take so long for the press to pick up on the scam, or have they? These documentarians did a bunch of journalism on this story.
Well, that's kind of what I felt like.
Yes.
Is that watching this seemed like the first time this whole story was actually revealed. And I was like, so that's what I was really kind of, first of all, I was like, why is Maurizio willing to tell his story now? Except that he loves to talk about himself. But secondly, the only other thing I found was an AP story where they wrote about like a correction that it wasn't actually a German Shepherd selling Madonna's mansion in Miami. That was a publicity stunt. And it goes on to kind of say some of the stuff, but I never saw anywhere in what I was reading anything about the tax fraud and the true story and the fake countess and the fake dog, like the whole thing. So this was a lot of work.
Yes, it was.
Like tremendous undertaking.
Yes. So, Toby, we first meet some very colorful people who are, because by the way, there is actually a dog, we should say. There is actually a series of dogs, a series of Gunthers. And what are we on, Gunther 6 now?
Well, the original dog was Gunther 4.
It was like 12 or something.
Yeah,
Gunther 6.
12. Yeah. We're on Gunther something. So there is a Gunther, but there are also Gunther copies that they sometimes shuffle in and out because, Gunther.
Stand-ins.
Yes. And the filmmakers said, because I asked them, I was like, was the real Gunther even in this movie? And they were like, sometimes. We didn't know. Sometimes it would be the real Gunther. Sometimes it wouldn't. That being said, there were also staff. And we first meet this spokesperson for the Gunther estate, which is this woman. And she, I find to be a very interesting character because she's sort of telling the story. Her name is Lucy, sort of from the outside and the inside at the same time. And just her voice alone kind of sets you up like something weird is about to happen. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, well, she sounds like exactly like Anna Delvey.
When she died, she had no direct relatives, no one close to her. And she gave everything to her dog, Gunther, who she loved so much.
I don't know what she was supposed to be, and I don't know what this Julie woman, like where she's from. Like there were times when I was like, oh, she's Australian. And then she'd say something else and be like, no, that can't possibly be it. So I don't really know what her deal is, but she's just one of many, many, many characters. You're hard pressed to find one kind of even somewhat normal person in this entire. You meet a lot of people, and all of them are weird in some way, except for maybe the woman who saves the dogs at the end.
Oh, the dog rescue people? Yes.
Yeah, they'd seem kind of normal, but it's a bunch of very strange people in pursuit of very strange things.
Yes, well, there is this estate set up with all of these rules. And one of the rules is around this, quote, pop group enterprise, which isn't really a pop group enterprise. And this is sort of pre-reality TV and manufactured pop group sort of era. And so they buy, Gunther, quotes, buys this mansion in Florida, Madonna's mansion, and they set up this group called, Toby, the Burgundians. What do you think of that? What do you think of this conceit of the Burgundians and what ends up happening in this mansion?
It's weird. It's like somebody had read a newspaper article about like how you could become famous or how somebody became famous and didn't completely understand it and then decided that they were going to try it because the Burgundians thing is bizarre. It sounds stupid. It is stupid. What you kind of find out is that what he's really trying to do is study happiness, right? What makes people happy? Like what happens and stuff. But his idea of what brings happiness and how he can create a situation for people to be happy is just sort of like unrestrained hedonism. So it's like, we're going to do mushrooms and you can have sex with anybody you want to all the time. There's no strings attached. Just have sex as much as you possibly can. And we'll have beautiful people. And so he kind of ties like happiness into like fun, which he sort of understands on like this like 8th grade boy level, which is just like lots of sex and partying. And, you know, he never like thinks about other things that people find make for happy lives, like helping people or doing something, you know, fulfilling. And actually my feeling was like, instead of getting these bizarre, like beautiful people and putting them in these strange situations, why don't you just find people who are happy and find out like what makes them tick? Like that seems like that'd be the, like, if that's honestly what you're trying to do, I would just find happy people and like walk around behind them and be like, oh, why is this making you happy? And I think that's how you find that stuff out. But that wasn't what he was after.
Not to mention the eugenics part of
Well, the eugenics part is not great either.
He really just wanted to watch the people having sex and see some fun stuff, Toby.
Maybe hop in there a little bit himself if he got a chance.
Maybe stuff his zucchini in their mailbox.
And make the perfect baby, right? Like that's
perfect happy situations bring about happy babies.
The perfect, happy, attractive baby. And by the way, we don't want to call it what it is because that sounds a little bit too Hillary? Is that what they say in the documentary? And I'm like, no, that's literally what eugenics is, guys. That's literally what it is.
I'm sure they thought the master race would be happy too.
Exactly.
Fun-loving Nazis.
So there is one really fun, to me, and funny conceit in this whole documentary, which is that Maurizio's partners and friends very clearly do not understand how candid he is or isn't being with the filmmakers in his own individual interviews. So whenever they interview them, especially the women in his life, the women are like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, or I'm not supposed to say this. Or at one point, Carla is like, oh, I can't tell you why we go to the Bahamas. And she makes this thing like a handcuff symbol. And she's like, we just like the island. Yeah. So meanwhile, Maurizio is telling the filmmakers, fucking everything.
Eventually, yeah.
So Kevin, what do you think about how the filmmakers do this trick where they switch between Maurizio telling them everything and then to sort of show how deceitful he can be, they show other people covering for him in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's how you take it. First of all, I mean, they do some kind of fun things to kind of set this up where they have sort of the little bit of the behind the scenes stuff or like telling the guy like his beads are, you know, going too loud. He's got to take them off. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I actually loved it. That was so funny.
So having the sort of, I don't call them outtakes, but the sort of expanded producer interaction that you don't normally see. Like we've already been accustomed to that. You know, there's the lawyer, like at some point he's like, oh, so do you want the real story? Yeah, well, I think the real story would be great. But they always kind of like, they don't know how much Maurizio has said. And so they're like, I don't want to be the one to spill the beans, but you can keep telling like,
Maurizio told you that?
Much?
That happens a few times. Wait, Maurizio told you that?
I really don't know. I don't know that accountant ties in the story. Have you clear with Maurizio this thing? I'm a careful person. Cut, please.
So you either can see that as like they're afraid of him and he's like, they don't want to get on his bad side, or they're all in on it and they have this need they feel to protect Maurizio and kind of go along with this game that the money belongs to the dog and he's just the caretaker spending the money and he's not really interested on how to be happy himself. He's just doing this research for the betterment of the Fantastic Five or whatever the fuck they were.
Yeah. Laura, didn't you find yourself at the beginning, like, I just kept thinking, like, but what about the dog, though? Like, what is the dog doing? What's the dog's life like? Is the dog really enjoying himself on the yacht? Because they kept saying, like, we got to get this yacht for the dog. We got to buy this house for the dog. And I was like, this dog has really good taste because those houses were quite beautiful.
They were quite beautiful. Actually, what I kept thinking as I was watching the dog was, how is this dog so well behaved?
Yes!
And best
behaved dog I've ever seen.
I was like, this dog is just like pimped out. He's like, I'm on my water raft and here's my steak. And like, it was so well behaved. Like, and I'm like, well, I guess that's what happens when you have an entire team of people hampering you all day long, every day.
I can shit anywhere I want.
Yeah.
I can fart after eating all the steak.
That was an impressive steak, I have to say. Well, then I did get a little worried about the dog during the whole like sex show thing when they were like, you know, the dog was kind of in the middle of some of these orgies, just kind of hanging out, like That was like his Studio 54 era or something. But, the part that didn't fit the vibe of the rest of it, speaking of dogs, was that scene, that really sad scene where we see all those dogs that are in horrible conditions.
The puppy mill, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy who comes forward to basically report that because he just can't take watching it anymore. That was awful.
He was going enough fine. In the past, I assure you that Alarico has always kept the situation perfectly well. I know that something, very bad happened, but this was completely unknown for everybody.
I mean, I will say one thing about these documentarians. They got everyone. Like, there's nobody. They got the dog puppy mill guy, and they got the dog rescue people, and they got the guy who turned in the dog puppy mill guy. But the dog breeder guy says he still claims to be the greatest German Shepherd breeder, like the number 3 German Shepherd breeder in the world. It's wild.
Yeah, which is crazy after that. Again, it's like amazing to me that people can get, involved with something like that. And then it's like people just forget about it. It falls off the radar. It's like, oh, yeah, whatever.
That's what having hundreds of millions of dollars will do, I guess. So, Kevin, speaking of shady businesses.
Yeah.
I think it's time for us to discuss the business
fuck
section.
You, Rebecca.
Toby's face every time we do a business section transition, he just makes this face like he wants to die. So, Kevin, what do we got going on our Patreon right now?
Well, coming up on our Patreon is going to be another edition of Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Toby recently talked with Janet Varney and Allison Horrocks about Trailed, and now he's prepping for another edition. Toby, for those who want to do their homework for that next episode, what book should they be reading right now?
They should be reading a book called Karachi Vice, Life and Death in a Contested City. And it's by a woman named Samira Shackle. And it basically follows the stories, and I'm saying this, I'm about halfway through it, of 6 different people who live in Karachi and sort of interact with sort of the crime and violence in their city in different ways. It's super interesting. It's something I knew absolutely nothing about when I started. And, the people that Samira finds and follows, it's sort of compelling the way that they live their lives. In the background is this combination of criminal and political violence that goes on in the city. It's a very complicated, very interesting book.
So that's Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Remember, if you support us as the Crime Writers on Nation sponsor level,
yes,
you can watch Toby and his guests record the podcast live, and you can even take part if you wish. You can ask questions.
You're a real insider.
Toby sometimes brings people on to have their comments, so it's really interactive. But even if you're not at that level, if you're a part of the exclusive content club, you're going to get that podcast. You're going to get Laura's Leave It to Bricker podcast, the Crime Writers on After Show, and our Married with Podcast
That's
podcast.
4 extra shows.
4 extra shows. Well, I mean, over the moon, like every month, it's like 8 episodes. 6
It's a lot of extra
episodes.
shows.
Yeah. Some people, like, when they want their Patreon, like, I want one free episode, one long form episode. We're getting you a whole bunch of podcasts.
We're working overtime for you guys. We're like undercharging for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know why? Because there's 4 of us.
We need a dog.
So we have to keep everybody busy.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Yeah, our Patreon patron saints are Megan Roberge and Rob Weber. Bless you.
I love Rob Weber. Rob Weber left a wonderful comment in our Facebook group this week, and he is one of my favorite listeners. Right?
Yes.
He embraces platonic love among men in a way that I super appreciate. Thanks, Rob. Rob was commenting on our Patreon discussion last week about Bone Valley and how I cry every time I hear men friends say that they love each other, because I'm like, men need to go to therapy more and just express that they love each other more. And Robert was like, I really endorse that. And that's something I try to do all the damn time. And it started this really beautiful thread. And Robert, thank you. Thank you, and bless you. Who's the other Patreon patron saying, I don't mean to give that person second billing.
That's Megan Roberge.
Megan, you're wonderful too. Okay. Thank you, Megan and Robert. Thank you, everybody, for suffering through the business section. Those of you who support us on Patreon, those of you who don't. Kevin, does thus end the business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
Parents should have a say in which apps are right for their teens. That's why Instagram wants to work with Congress to require parental approval wherever teens under 16 download apps. Learn more at instagram.com/parental approval.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
Suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
At Staples Business Advantage, we help you select from 2,000 breakroom products, so you can be sure there's something for everyone.
Yum. Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
I want people to understand this ordeal. It's taken a toll on both of us.
Casey Anthony's parents respond after 15 years of allegations.
I've gotten blamed for something I didn't do, and it tears me up inside.
This can change our life. This is serious.
This is their final response.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still.
Casey Anthony's parents, the lie detector test. Watch now, only on A&E. And watch next day on the A&E app.
Okay, so Kevin, at some point in this documentary, someone asked somebody, is this a cult?
Yeah. Someone asked Lee, is this a cult?
Is what a cult? You should explain what they're asking if what is a cult.
Right. If someone has to say, like if you ask somebody, is this a cult?
People living in a house together, following rules, right?
Having sex with one another, whatever, right? If you have to, your answer should be, no, it's not a cult. If you have to say, well, what is a cult? Define that for me. It's a fucking cult, all right?
Do you feel like that could almost be cult-like?
Not at all. Okay, so, wow, that is hilarious. So, if you put into context today what the word cult means, that comes from a negative fear place. And when you're in a group that is pushing joyous things, then there's no real need for an allegiance.
This guy came off so stupid. Like, I don't know. What would you define as a cult? Yeah, but not all cult. Oh, okay, whatever. I guess it's not a cult then.
I mean, there were reasons for them to stay that were perhaps more compelling than reasons why they might leave.
Well, I got to tell you, if I were in a house and it was like, everybody play with this dog and fuck each other, I might want to stick around too.
And spend as much money as you want.
Spend as much money as you want.
All you have to do is
just
work
don't pay
out.
attention to the guys with the white lab coats and the clipboard.
It doesn't really strike me as a cult, though, does it?
No.
No.
Toby, it is and it isn't cultish. Because when I first watched it, I was like, it feels culty because they're being told to do all these things. But then it just disbands, and then they just start a new one where they wear those weird light-up necklaces. Which also feels culty.
Yeah, but I think, you have weird sort of communal arrangements that don't necessarily involve cult stuff. Like you don't have like a religious leader or anything. It's just...
They're not separating them from their families. They're not doing any of that, right?
They're not tithing. They're not giving up all their goods. There's no call to religion, really. As a matter of fact, I think that's probably the opposite of what they're after. Is they don't want religion get in the way of nonstop good time party.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Oh, I was trying to put my necklace on.
Laura, for our listeners, because this is not a visual medium, just put a headlamp around her neck so that she could pretend to be in the cult. So, Laura, I have a character I would like to ask you about who is, I swear to God, the filmmakers told me this guy is legitimately exactly what you see on film and 10 times worse. Fabrizio Corona, the Italian Charlie Sheen / gossip guy who, as it turns out, was on home arrest when they interviewed him for this show.
Oh, that guy. Yes. Oh, that guy was horrible. Oh, I hated him so much.
His name is Fabrizio Corona. He's an Italian Charlie Sheen.
You're on house arrest right now.
Yeah.
You cannot go out. You cannot do anything.
Oh. Yeah, I can fuck.
What did you think of the fact that he clearly saw this documentary solely as an opportunity for him to build his personal brand? And that is clearly the only reason he was in this documentary.
Yeah, that guy was vile. He was the guy that was part of I don't know if he was in the Magnificent Five or one of the reality shows in the house.
One of the bands, one of the musical groups.
One of the musical bands. And he just talked about how he got to like have sex all day. It was so great, blah, blah, blah. And then as it kind of pans out, he doesn't look as good as he once did now that he's on house arrest. But again, you got to hand it to the filmmakers for getting everybody to take part, even the douchey people.
Yeah.
And in that case, they just let him sort of tie his own noose, honestly, by just letting him be him.
Yeah. So, Toby, what did you think of him?
I thought he was delightful. Like, why would you think that anything that guy does would give you any insight into what brings happiness to like your average person? He's just so far out there. Like, I kind of thought like maybe it's like a put on and it's not very funny. But if that's really the way he is and that's the way he acts, it's freaking hysterical and in sort of a laughing at you, not with you kind of way. I'm like, I don't really think you're going to make it big in the US because you're on this thing. I don't think people are going to find you that appealing. Could you come to feel like, I think that Maurizio is like sincere in wanting to find out what makes people happy because he himself is unable to kind of access that, or at least access any kind of consistency. So he's really got these questions, but the way he goes about trying to answer this question, which is clearly super, super important to him, is so batshit that in some ways, to me, that's like the whole thing was like, why? Like once you realize that he's sincere, it's like, why are you going about it this way?
Right.
Like if you really are trying to solve this problem, which you clearly are haunted by, this just isn't the way to do it, man. And
isn't it weird too that all these people are indulging him? Like his ex-wife Carla, who clearly he still has like this very close relationship with. All these, they all.
Well, I think he comes off as a likable. I mean,
very
he's like
sweet.
a sad puppy. You know, it's just like I would love to help you find happiness and be happier and live a fulfilling life because you've got all these resources and a desire to be happy and you just, for whatever reason, can't do it. But I don't think you're going to find it by giving this guy the opportunity to have sex with a whole bunch of people in this house. Like, I don't think that's going to give you the insight that you're looking for.
Fabrizio Corona sounds like the name of the button man of a bad mob movie.
Yeah, he does.
It sounds like something like Elaine and George would make up on Seinfeld if there's like, who are you dating? Fabrizio. What's his last name?
My Italian
Corona.
Mexican cousin.
Isn't it so weird that Maurizio's mother like invented a drug that we still see commercials on TV for like all the time?
I there's one thing, you know, these very, I don't want to say deceptive. I guess that's almost like adding a moral judgment to his obfuscation. But the one thing that like, I think that these producers just kind of let drop, who's saying, yeah, we made the money and then with the business and then there was nothing more we could really accomplish. So we sold it. Like, what? That doesn't sound like a reasonable answer to sell
Maurizio's a liar.
$1 billion. Yeah.
Okay, that's the other thing that we learn is that he is a liar. We see him call
Well,
the
I thought they were going to come later and
well, they show it without
that.
telling it, right? Because the last shot of the documentary is him calling them over.
No. I mean, it's clear that he's fabricating a lot of it. I just say the filmmakers let them tell the cover story.
Yes.
That the media has been eating up in the legend, and then they just kind of like go like one after another. They systematically go and pull apart different parts of the legend, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that they were going to come back to that thing about why they got out of the legitimate pharmaceutical business. It doesn't seem like
I don't think it matters.
The answer is like, well, there was nothing more for us to do. It's like, that sounds like bullshit. In the meantime, you've got this dog.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
It's
interesting.
You've got this dog.
This dog.
Well, Maurizio just
that
he's
should be
clearly,
the subtext to the entire thing.
I mean, by the way, apparently it wasn't even his dog. Like he stole it from a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting when she suddenly shows up because he had a lot of women and then like, oh, this one was like, and then I decided to have a baby with them. And then this one's like, and I had the real dog.
And he stole my dog.
He stole her dog. But I have to say what was really interesting about that part was, I don't know if anyone else kind of picked up on this like I did. He really loved that dog. Like he was really affectionate to that dog. So I was like, okay, so maybe behind this tax evasion that he's got going on, at least he's putting some of this money to good use because he's an animal lover.
Well, he used the magic medication on the dog to try to like cure the dog's like illnesses and stuff. But what was wild to me, I mean, he's just a liar, right? Like, so they have all these moments of him saying one thing and then the cameras just keep rolling and then he's like, okay, that's not true. Here's the real truth.
Yeah, how do you square that he has this cover story, he's been telling these, these lies for years.
But then he tells
But it doesn't even like really, he said, well, we didn't find a death certificate. Okay, I'll tell you that. It wasn't like I'm going to die on this hill with all these different things.
He never dies on the hills.
So does someone like
he
points it out.
He immediately crumbles. And then at the end, though, they have this moment where he's like, it would be a really good story.
Yeah.
Why don't you pretend that the dogs are clones?
Tell them the dogs are clones.
Wild. So the other thing...
They're not clones, by the way.
They're not. No, we asked. They're not clones. So the other thing that struck me at the end, and I don't know if any of you guys thought this, at the end, Maurizio and Carla go to this island in the Bahamas. They're going to buy an island to set up an animal sanctuary, allegedly. And we see this shot of Gunther chasing an iguana. And I'm like, you're going to bring a bunch of dogs to this island and let them free? Every iguana on this island is going to be gone in like 4 days. This is going to be an ecological disaster.
It'll be the biggest puppy mill in the world.
These people have no plan. They never have any plan. Like, it's just, they seem like liars and tax evaders and whatever, but they seem like relatively benign, well-meaning liars and tax evaders, but they don't have a plan.
They're like misguidedly trying to find happiness for themselves, for dogs. They want that, and they just keep doing it in the weirdest, dumbest ways.
I hang out with them, but I also want to be like, guys, all the iguanas on this island are going to die if you go through with this plan.
But he's like a 14-year-old. I mean, I think in like everything, it's just like, I'm just going to lie about this and see what happens. And I got busted. Well, that you got me. This is the actual truth. I'm going to bring 100 dogs to this iguana-filled island. It'll be paradise for these dogs. It's like, dude, it's not going to be paradise for these dogs. Like, what are they going to do?
Right.
Like, you're going to have to import so much freaking food. They're going to get in fights with iguanas. Each
other.
Sooner or later, they're going to start breeding. You're going to have like dogs with 3 eyes and stuff. I mean, it's just going to be...
Is there a fresh water source for them to drink water?
It's just going to be a mess. It's going to be Dog Poop Island. And
Dog Poop Island. That's different than Cocaine Island?
It's worse. It's much, much worse than Cocaine Island.
Yeah, it's going to be Poop Island. I would rather go to Cocaine Island and go to Culebra and see if anything is still there, even though I know it's not, rather than Poop Island.
See if you're going to have some exploded landmines. Is that what you're trying to say?
I want to say this before we get out of the spoiler section of this, because I feel like when you watch this story, I think you can see this really one of two ways. And I think I'm seeing it one way. Maybe you guys see it slightly different. The whole thing about Maurizio doing this whole thing to have, his own fortune sort of be laundered through the story of a countess going to a dog. It also says in the will, you got to create this rock band that we're going to study and everything like that. You can either look at it and see this is a guy who is trying to pull off this financial con and, is using the dog as the prop for that. Or as I see it much sadder. I see it that it's a sadder story because, yes, he is doing all these things, but he's really chasing his own happiness because of all the story. You can shake your head. This is how I see it. Because the whole story about making up the countess and that her son Gunther died, like he's like projecting himself on all of these other things. He's not perfect. He's doing a lot of weird shit. But I was surprised to find out like that is what is behind his actions for all this stuff, is that he is trying to find his own happiness by studying other people's happiness and living the life with the dog and all that other shit.
Boo-hoo. I think, here's what I think. I think when you're as rich as he is, a lot of people are unhappy. A lot of people have stuff. He is a very, very, very rich person with depression, right?
Yep.
And he is pulling off a tax fraud and wants to live forever and be happy. And rich people
He wants to live forever.
Like, he just wants to have this legacy. That's why he has the long scheme of the dog bloodline. And that's why everything is about buying an island. Everything is being having babies. It's all about legacy, right? He wants to be happy, but everybody wants to be happy. But I think this whole thing is just like a very rich person conceit wrapped in like a way weirder package. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Super weird. I think it's super weird. And I think it's like lifestyles of the rich eccentric. And just when you think you've seen the most bonkers part of this story, he does something else. And like today, I was looking the guy up. Hold on a second.
Big swing
product
of
placement. Gee, Laura, what are you taking a sip of?
No, so today I was looking him up because I was curious, and I was like, I can't find anything about the scam. But no, I found that just last year he became a part owner of some racehorses in South Florida. and there's like this whole crazy article in like the Thoroughbred Times or something about how he's like, oh, you need some money? Here's $50,000 for your racehorses.
A chronicle of a horse story coming out of this.
Yeah. Gunther's horses.
I just think when you're super rich, like sometimes there aren't people who are willing to tell you no, especially if they're living off you, essentially. And one thing that almost everybody says about him who knows him is like, he's a very strange man. And they may say he's very nice, but he's very strange, or he's very rich, but it's constantly, he's very strange. And he's got all these people who are just like willing to indulge like these weird things that he's got going on. And I think, part of his personality is that typical rich person, like, I don't want to fucking pay taxes. Like, this is my money. And so he pulls off some weird scam for that. And yeah, it's like absolutely rich privilege to kind of focus on what you feel is your shortcoming or what's missing in your life or whatever, to this obsessive length where you can spend all this money to like do a quote unquote scientific study of how you can make it better. And he does it because he's a strange man in the strangest possible way, which is why you can make a 4-part documentary about it. Because if he was a normal rich guy who was just like, I'm just going to like try and fly a shuttle into space or something, you can't do it because it's boring.
Yeah, exactly.
At Staples Business Advantage, our experts can help you find furniture that fits any design and budget, while AI can
recommend products based on preferences, generate 3D models for visualization, and optimize space planning for office furniture.
Take advantage of our team's eye for style and design.
And my eye for, wait, I have no eyes. Only algorithms.
At Staples Business Advantage, furnishing your office is easy. And with the best warranty in the business, we're committed to you now and down the road.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Do you ever meet someone who seems kind of off? Whether it's a creepy neighbor or random phone number that keeps calling you, Truthfinder has you covered. You can search for people by name, address, phone number, email, and more. Truthfinder can be especially helpful for running confidential background checks on anyone you're planning to meet from online dating apps. Go to truthfinder.com/podcasts for a special offer. That's truthfinder.com/podcasts to access your special offer today.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out the 4-part series, Gunther's Millions, allegedly about the richest dog in the world, on Netflix. Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Gunther's Millions?
Yeah, thumbs up. I thought this was a really interesting documentary. I mean, it was something I hadn't heard of. The way that things were revealed as you were watching it into the layers of what was actually going on behind the life of this very wealthy dog was absolutely fascinating. But what really impressed me is when I started actually doing research online, couldn't find any of the information that was in this documentary, and realized that this documentary was actually the first time this information was being reported. And that was amazing because everybody was involved and they were very forthcoming. And it's a crazy story. If you want to see a dog floating around on a raft in the middle of an orgy, you should watch this show.
Toby Paul.
Top that, Tobes.
Or if you want to see a man whose bathing suit may or may not be covering up his bits floating around with a dog, you should watch this documentary. Toby Paul, what do you think? Thumbs up. By the way, Kevin did pause a couple of times and he's like, what is happening right there?
Talk about spoiling.
Thumbs up or thumbs down for Gunther's Millions, Toby Paul.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. It's interesting. Like I thought 80% of it was really interesting. I thought 20% of it was like kind of and at the end, you know, you kind of look back. It's like, what is the importance of what I just watched? You know, what the hell was this all like? Why did I spend all my time on this? It's entertaining. It's about this very strange guy, and he's got some strange ideas, and he does some strange stuff. And you know, I found watching him do his thing for 3.25 hours, which some of it involved this dog, some of it didn't. You know, most of the time I thought it was pretty interesting. Gives a lot of stuff to think about, I thought. So yeah, I'd give it a thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
I'm thumbs up. I certainly think, you know, if the story is not what you think from the first 10 minutes, or even just from, you know, reading the log line about what happened with this dog, it goes to other places that were really unexpected. There's the financial story that I'm not as interested in, only in the fact that it sets up the human interest story in this and what is really going on. Why does Gunther have this money? What the fuck is happening with the humans around him? Why was this all put in motion? And what I came away with is different than maybe what you guys came away with, but I like my version better. So I'm going with thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm thumbs up too. I think there actually is a story here about like the grossness of wealth that I also really enjoyed. Kevin disagrees, but also there are just some like, I agree with Laura, the journalism of this documentary is quite excellent when you realize what they achieved. And one detail I will say, and I would honestly, if you like this documentary, I would strongly encourage you, and this is not just because of self-promotional reasons, to listen to my interview with people who made this documentary. One detail we learned is that one of the filmmakers spoke Italian, but the subjects in the documentary didn't know that for part of the shoot. So they were speaking Italian in front of the filmmakers to try to keep things from the filmmakers. And they like understood everything they were saying. It's really illuminating and interesting. And I just think that they just accomplished a lot in terms of like advancing a story that had been reported somewhat in Italy, and like bringing it here and telling it in full, like in a way that was very entertaining and fun and super weird. And I love animal stories and weird people stories. So yeah, I got to give this a thumbs up. I really, really enjoyed watching it. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, I have to ask, especially after reviewing this, do we have a millionaire cat of the week this week?
Well, not yet, because, I mean, what is coming up for our local, like, Powerball and Mega Millions and all that? So, no, we do not have we have a regular orange cat this week. I think he might have actually been cat of the week before, but he's making cat of the week again. My friend Jen's.
Oh, a repeat.
Little Frankie, my good friend Jen's cat, the cat that I found for her when one of her other cats was lonely, and turned out that he was born on the same day that her father passed away. So he was named after her dad, Frank. But little Frankie. So I'm helping Jen move. And I brought her lunch last weekend before we were going to move boxes. And this cat was obsessed with my chicken Caesar wrap to the point that first he mauled my bosoms by climbing up and putting his paws trying to eat the sandwich. And then he literally came all the way from behind me, like sneak attack. So, I mean, he had... much like some of these people that we've talked about.
So why are we rewarding this cat?
Exactly.
Because he's amazing.
He just sounds like a molester.
He's a molester. He's like Chester the molester. But I have a nice picture where he's drooling because I think he's still thinking about the chicken wrap that got away. So
he's thinking about the sausage that was stuffed in your mailbox from last episode.
He's hoping he doesn't get a zucchini this week.
Right. So Laura
Who doesn't love a sausage wrapped in a single slice of white
buttered
bread
stuffed in a mailbox? It's more better than a zucchini, as Laura pointed out. So Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you and submit their animals, hopefully a cat that hasn't won before. I feel bad for all people who were cheated.
I don't think maybe he hasn't won before. I don't know.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay. But by the way, we don't throw away previous entries, so you're still eligible.
Good. Okay, good.
How can folks reach out to you? Of course, they can email us at crimewriterson@gmail.com or send them to us on Facebook. But if they want to reach out to you, say on social media, how can they find you there to submit their pets or plants or people to be Cat of the Week?
They can find me at Laura Bricker.
And Toby Ball, folks want to reach out to you and say, hey, I don't think you're weird at all, Toby, just because you're searching for happiness through putting people in a mansion and making them be in a rock band. How can they find you on social media?
At Toby Ball NH.
Kevin Flynn, what about you? How can you be found so people can question your experiments for happiness?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On, and please join our incredible community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. That's where you'll find listener Rob Weber. He's awesome. Support the show at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll get the Crime Writers On After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the wonderful Olivia Burdett. The executive producer of this fine program is Kevin P. Flynn. This show was recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, The Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where we try to solve the mystery once and for all of who's the good boy. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening.
Good boy.
We'll catch you later.
Later. Toby recently talked with Janet Varney and Allison Horcrux about the
Horcrux?
Horcrux. Sorry, it was a Harry Potter thing.
Wow.
Harry Potter. All right, I gotta do that again.
There's 7 of her.
There's 7 of her.
She's hidden everywhere.
And the scar in my forehead. Okay. Jesus. All right, but take that again.
There's a piece of Allison Horcrux in all of us.
All right.
Partners in Crime Media.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
Let Staples Business Advantage use today's latest innovations, plus our team's experience, to make stocking your team's breakroom easier for you.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.